Welcome, everyone, to the Motorsport Show.
Not so loud.
The premiere episode, Philip. I was surprised. We just popped up there on the screen with a snazzy graphic and with the new logo. But welcome, everyone, to the very first episode of the Motorsport Show. And, well, we've come up with a concept to talk about what we all love is motor racing, Philip. And I'm Gerald McDormand. Phil Brannigan's joining me for the show.
That's me.
It's a new concept. We wanted to with streaming happening, everyone enjoying seeing everything online nowadays, turning off the TV, getting online and watching what they really want to watch. We wanted to bring motorsport to you. Most importantly, Phil, we also wanted to bring motorsport to the fans. And we wanted to talk to the fans. And the great thing about this concept is that the Motorsport Show, we can interact with the fans live on Facebook. We can take questions.
Live. We can do it live.
We can do it
on
live.
Facebook.
We can take comments, take questions.
It's black and white, though, isn't it? Is it colour? Is it black and white? I'm still getting used to the technology, folks.
Well, so am I. It's there's stuff happening everywhere here, but it's a different concept that hasn't happened before in Australia.
It is for the fans. Now, after all, well, hang on a second. We've been in the business now 3 decades each in the motorsport media, but we started off as fans. We were just fans who got slightly better seats and nicer tickets to go to the races and talk to some of the people. So we're fans of most forms of motor racing, and that's what we're going to try and bring to you every couple of weeks or so, 18 times through the course of the year. We'll be taking questions from you, getting comments from you from Facebook, Facebook Live, right around the country and right around the world, hopefully, and talking about the things that you want us to talk about.
As Phil said, we will be broadcasting every second week on Facebook Live. So
Wednesday nights
at 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Time.
Against Game of Thrones? No, we're not.
No,
we're not.
We are against the front bar.
Uh-oh.
But it's okay.
We'll be fine.
We've got a beer in hand, so don't worry about that. But the thing about it, we will take viewer questions and comments all the way through the show as we talk about different things.
Be nice. Be kind, people. Keep yourself nice.
And it's fair to say, no dickheads, right?
Apart from these two.
Yeah. So, but for those comments that people can give to us, we've actually got our first prize giveaway. This weekend, or today, I should say, tonight. It's the Big O, the Larry Ormsby Big O scrapbook on the recent inductee into the Hall of Fame of Australian Motorsport, Larry Ormsby. It's
drag racing legend?
Absolute drag racing legend and a Ford factory-backed drag racer of the 60s and 70s and a 5-time Australian Nationals champion. We've got that book to give away. It's $75 value.
So fire us in some good questions.
Best
question gets the book. That was my hand, by the way.
Absolutely.
Well worth having. And well done on that book, too. It's a really good production.
It's not too bad. $75, LarryOrmsby.com, and we can deliver one to you if you want. It's already sounding like Eddie Maguire.
That good. That's good. That's a good start. So what are we going to be talking about? All forms of motor racing, whatever people want to bring to our attention. If that's what we'll try and find out through the course of the program, through the course of the weeks. We'll go to the people that make these decisions and try and find out what's going on in the sport for you.
We will also, over the series as well, be bringing guests into the show. We're going to we can talk to them either by phone. Also, we can bring them into the studio as well, Phil. We're going to talk to as many good people as we can and a couple of bad ones too.
We could use the Skype.
We can use Skype. We'll Skype into a few different people. We're also going to take them by the phone, but also here in the studio when we can.
We're going to need a bigger table.
We will... or we can lose some weight.
We both could lose some weight.
Both of us can lose some weight. So anyway, Phil, that's what the show's all about. We hope that you sit down and enjoy us. If you are going to miss a Wednesday night as well, the great thing about Facebook Live is that what we do here tonight automatically records and reposts itself, so you can come back here, and then in the between weeks we'll be editing up some of the clips as well, just to give you views if you miss those bits.
So you'll be able to download it on your phone and watch it later on.
Yeah,
show it to your friends.
Absolutely.
You'll never believe what I just saw and show them.
And when we work the technology out, we're actually going to, and especially with the cameras going that way and that way and that way, we will be posting this on the podcasts as well. So
Good.
for audio. So
Fantastic.
You just don't get to see the vision that we've got.
Which isn't really, in our case, well, in my case in particular, it's not really a big loss.
Now, enough of the fun and frivolities, Phil.
Okay.
The Motorsport Show. It's all about stories, interacting with fans, and also about the big agendas in motorsport. And we've got 3 big agendas this week. And, of course, let's go to the vision. The first lot is the Mustangs at Phillip Island. The Mustangs continued to dominate while the wheels were falling off Holden's effort. Mustangs 1 and 2 in both of the races down there. Scotty McLaughlin and Fabian Coulthard.
Formula One in China, the 1000th Grand Prix, a battle between Mercedes-Benz and Ferrari. Mercedes-Benz winning again, but there were challenges there. Double pit stops in the Mercedes-Benz pit bay, and another win for Lewis Hamilton.
And big news in Australian drag racing. Australia's top fuel teams have all pulled out of this weekend's Easter event at Willowbank Raceway in Queensland. So, it's been a busy week and also quite controversial. That's in drag racing with those teams pulling out.
It has been, and there's a lot of questions being asked around the sport. Big questions being asked in not in V8 supercars, in supercars. I knew I was going to say that, about the P word, and we haven't talked about that a lot in the past few years, but it's really come back screaming into the conversation this year, and that's parity. And the Mustangs at the moment, you've got to say, they seem to have things all their own way.
Well, Phil, the fans in blue have been going a bit wild.
They have.
Absolutely wild. The pony's been on an incredible winning streak of lately. It's driven the red side mad, but it's coming to an end. It is dead set coming to an end.
It is?
Absolutely. And it's, in fact, it's almost like a nobbling. It's going to be a nobbling. And it's that R word that Russell Ingall never wanted to use.
He never wanted to use it. I don't want to use it either. You mean retirement?
Absolutely retirement. Let's go to the videotape. Here it is for the blue fans.
That's not a racing car. That's a horse. That's Winx winning in Sydney, 33 straight on the weekend.
Same thing. Blue, horse, pony.
Yeah.
Got up there.
It did get up there. But now retired.
Well, the great thing about that being retired as well is perhaps that Winx is going to be named as a Fox Sports commentator for the next round of the Supercars.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great to see 4 legs in the paddock out there with the rest of the retired superstars from the sports?
Now, while we might have a little bit of fun of that, a fair bit of sad news with one of motor racing's guys in the last couple of days, the fantastic Nathan Pretty, Randy Corners himself.
Yep, from Wodonga.
One of Wodonga's best ever taxi drivers and concreters. He experienced a fire on the weekend, and we saw this on Instagram on the weekend. Not only were his trophies singed, badly singed, including his Bathurst 24-hour trophy, Phil.
Yeah, that's bad, right?
But his Lego collection also got absolutely burnt.
Yeah, and look, Nathan's been through a lot of knocks through his motor racing career, and he will bounce back hard if I know the man.
Well, he might bounce back hard, but we've got some exclusive vision.
Okay, I know
of the fire.
No, that's not it. That's not the fire.
That is the fire.
It does look like Wodonga, though.
It is. It is Wodonga. But Nathan's quite a resourceful bloke. Don't worry about that. He's talented. He used to be a concreter. He can build, and he's going to build as quickly as he can. And, in fact, we know he's already got into it. Here he is rebuilding already.
Wow, look at that.
The Lego Notre Dame.
Didn't even cost $1 billion.
No, well done. And
Fantastic.
we didn't have to pay the French anything. So,
and what else has been happening in the big bad world of motor racing right around the world? We've seen some controversies. We saw some action in Texas on the weekend in MotoGP, Moto2 and Moto3. But there was one thing that generally got away from the fans, and I'm not sure whether everyone's seen this. Have we got the vision? It's coming up soon, but there were a lot of spills on the weekend. We saw Marc Marquez go down in the Honda, and that's not something we're accustomed to. And there were also some accidents in Moto3 and in Moto2. And the cause of these accidents, in Texas, they're a funny lot, so we're not quite sure exactly what's happened, but we're trying to get the vision synced up, and we're just having a bit of a technical difficulty at the moment, as you would expect for the first week.
well, why not? Let's... Hey, if that's as bad as it gets, it's nothing compared to what else happened today. How are we going there, Danny boy? We right?
Oh, there it goes. It's Ika Lacona going down the road in Moto 2, all because of that pussycat. Can we see that again? Can we get that in the loop? Lacona gets up to his feet and the cat congratulates itself, and that's what causes accidents. There he goes again. He's gone over the bars. You know where we could have used that cat on the weekend, Gerald?
Phillip Island?
Yeah, the geese. It could have chased away the geese. If it can take down a Moto 2 bike, I'm guessing that two birds won't be much of a challenge.
Well, there's certainly a couple of gooses in supercars that could be gotten rid of. That is for sure. I think we're going all right for ourselves as gooses at the moment. Anyway, first show.
These are the things you go through, folks, when you're trying to get the wheels oiled.
Yeah, very much so. Squeaky already. Righto, Phil. A lot of racing on the weekend in the last couple of weeks.
It was an extraordinary weekend. Supercars, Formula 1, IndyCar, NASCAR, MotoGP, World Superbikes, all in one weekend. That's the only weekend of the whole year. NHRA. That's the only weekend all those things happen for the entire season.
Is that right?
Unbelievable, yeah. There's been a huge amount going on. And the headline act, so far as plenty of people were concerned, was Phillip Island. The Supercars.
I thought we were talking about IndyCars.
Let's talk about IndyCars. We'll talk about Long Beach. Fourth round of the... Here we go, the division there. We started off quickly. And it was an unusual race because we saw a dominant win, but it was the first time this season... Oh, there's a couple of cars stuck there. They never seem to be able to get around the first lap. First time we've seen 4 different winners in the first 4 races for a couple of years. But the last 7 races at Long Beach have all had different winners. This time around, it was a repeat winner. There he is, number 27, Alexander Rossi. The American, who has done such a good job, he's become a real threat, the former Indy 500 winner, and he absolutely cleared out and left the field standing. Will Power didn't have a lot of luck. He got caught in the pits, and Joseph Newgarden, the former IndyCar champion driving for Team Penske, got back on the track in a good position, but there was a great battle to the flag. Unfortunately, it didn't involve Will Power, who had some mechanical problems, but it did involve Scott Dixon, who here he is going around the outside. The New Zealander, the former champion, multiple Indy 500 winner, is just quietly sneaking along in the points and doing a good job, as he always does for Chip Ganassi, but he had a heck of a fight on his hands. Will Power, unfortunately, going down the escape road, an overboost problem. Colton Herter, who have already seen this season, became the youngest winner in IndyCar history at 18 years old. He had a few problems later in the day when he put it up there against the fence and wasn't a happy man, the second-generation driver, but obviously a kid with a great deal of talent and a huge future in front of him. Scott Dixon, great work there from the Ganassi guys, but there was a problem with the fuel filler. He lost time, and that put him back in the pack. Nothing was going to stop him coming back through the field, and that's exactly what we saw. Another great drive from Dixie, and he really has set such a high standard for raceability, but he got in a big fight with Graham Rahal, who locked a tyre, and we see this challenge now. I think we might be able to see the vision where that was the controversial moment of the race. Dixon trying to go past on the last lap, and after the race, IndyCar officials called Rahal for blocking, and they reversed those positions. Dixon got moved from 4th to 3rd, but there was absolutely no stopping Rossi, and he cleared out, and he took the checkered flag, and deservedly so. He's a real talent, this guy, isn't he?
Well, obviously, you don't get to Formula One by not being a talent. And he is a terrific driver, Indy 500 winner as well on debut.
Yeah.
Actually, at that Indy 500, I was sitting in turn number 2 and had the pleasure of meeting right in front of me some people from Napa, from the sponsor. Yep. And because the Napa deal, the Napa have just come into Australia, of course, and bought out Repco. And are expanding here in Australia. But that was a last-minute deal for that Indy 500. I'm told they got not only the Indy 500 but another 1 or 2 races for only about $300,000 and went on and I mean, look what it's become. He's a star over there, and every time you win the Indy 500, you're doing pretty good.
He is doing fantastically well. The next round of the IndyCar Championship will be at Indianapolis, but on the road course. And then, of course, they get into practice and qualifying for the Indy 500 at the end of May.
One of the greatest spectacles in all of motorsport, in the world of sport, actually. It's a terrific event, and I've been lucky to be 3 times. Phil, we should go over. Let's see if the motorsport show budget actually pays for it.
We have a budget, do we? You sure? Not at the moment. No. Oh, we do. We've got lots of red numbers. We'll get there. We'll be fine.
You haven't got any red numbers yet. I have. Anyway, doesn't matter. We'll press on from there. Indy 500, of course. James Davison has got himself another drive in the Indy 500.
Yep, good effort that.
He did lead 2 years ago. The guy's bloody good on the oval, and let's hope he can come home with a big result.
But there's a bit of a fuss going on among some of the teams because a couple of the leading team owners, including Roger Penske and Chip Ganassi, have called for IndyCar to step in and seed the full-time cars into the 500 field. 33. It's always been a big open qualifying
rather
session.
Than getting them bumped.
Yep. And that's caused a bit of controversy. People are saying that that's not the way things should be. What's your view? Should it be open qualifying for everybody, or should the full-time teams get a start?
That's actually a bloody good question. Look, I mean, the great thing about the Indy 500 was that it was always supposed to be a race that anyone could go and buy a car and turn up at the speedway and attempt to qualify. And I mean, it's no $2 effort to do it. The big guys should be able to race with the little guys. They should have the advantage anyway. That's
true, but with the IndyCar budget for the full season now running somewhere north of $10 million US for one car, maybe the team owners and the sponsors who make that investment for the course of the season should get the privilege of actually being seeded straight into the race. It's a tricky question. And look, Davison's a good example. People like Pippa Mann, who comes out once a year, and she didn't make the field last year, and her sponsors were very disappointed. So I can see both sides of the story. But IndyCar's on the rise in America. The crowds are up. The TV numbers through NBC, who televised the 500 this year for the first time. Maybe the product needs to be just the premium teams maybe need to get the top 24 spots, and qualifying can still be had for the last 9 positions on the grid. It's a tricky question. I don't think there's going to be any changes this year, but let's see what happens in the long term.
Leave it as it is.
Yeah, well, maybe. Actually, what do the fans think? Tell us on Facebook Live. Do you want to see the top teams going? Do you want to see Scott Dixon and Will Power and the Penske drivers and all the regulars from the Andretti stable make it onto the grid guaranteed for the 500? Or would you rather see open slather? And maybe, if someone has a problem in qualifying, maybe one of the stars misses out. And that wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
No, that's a good point. And Rob, our producer's over there. Rob, can you read the bloody questions coming through? I'm trying to... We're buffering a little bit around here, boys. We're not quite sure if it's us buffering or you buffering. We've got plenty of internet feed here. We've got the hands up. So, sorry, guys. We're trying to work all of this out. Let's stick with us and see how we go.
I'll get some questions.
More motor racing, also in the United States on the weekend. Well, everything was in the bloody United States on the weekend except for Formula One, unless it was in China, New Jersey. Was at Richmond, and NASCAR racing, and Danny Boy rolled that videotape. Martin Truex Jr. won his first race for the season, and of course his first race for Joe Gibbs Racing, having crossed over after the closure of Furniture Row Racing. He did it in Richmond on the short oval. 9 races into the year, and only Joe Gibbs Racing and Penske Racing have won this season. It's either been the Camrys or the Mustangs, but this fantastic battle went right down to the wire with Truex and Logano. Nice close racing. Checkered flag came out. And obviously, Martin Truex Jr. was very happy with the burnout. Great for Australian engineer James Small as well, who works. And there is the coach, Joe Gibbs. And after the passing away of Joe's son earlier this year,
J.D. Gibbs.
J.D. Gibbs. Yeah. It's good to see that they are doing so well. And, of course, the Camrys are running very, very strongly indeed. Someone over there with the Toyota TRD program, of course, is Steve Hallam, who used to be the managing director of a Holden racing team here in Australia, and also up there at Techno.
There's an increasing number of links between NASCAR and supercars, and I believe one of the supercar teams at Phillip Island on the weekend had a visitor from the United States looking at some technology. Trying to find out who that is. Had a bit of a whisper.
A visitor. A
visitor from the United States. No, from one of the gun engineering outfits in the USA. And someone suggested that to me in the pit lane, and I haven't been able to find out who it is. So we'll try and track that down. But at the moment, there's a lot of crossover. Pushrod V8 engines, normally aspirated, and so on and so on. And supercar teams looking for that little edge and bringing in perhaps some American technology, which we've already seen in the case of the Penske's, and we're seeing more and more in Walkinshaw Racing and
Walkinshaw.
Their links in the US.
Andretti United.
That's the one. Walk and run. Walk and run? Walk and something.
Walk, run and unite. Hello to Ryan Walkinshaw as well.
Yeah.
Ryan unfortunately went down with appendicitis Monday when he was supposed to be flying home to Monaco.
Well, good thing it didn't happen on the plane. Good thing it happened while he was still in Australia. And, Ryan, he puts a lot of effort into that team, and HSV here, based right here in Melbourne. And Ryan, get well soon. Will Toyota get involved in supercars? Is one of the questions we've had from one of our viewers.
No.
Yeah, no, they won't.
No.
Toyota is dominating the Australian market.
Hello, Mark. Will Toyota ever get involved? I don't think so. The thing about Toyota in Australia, they're a clear number one in the marketplace. They sponsor the AFL. They also sponsor cricket. I don't think they need to be involved. They're selling 2 times the amount of cars that any other manufacturer is. So, no, I don't think they would. Unless they come in with the Supra, but I'm not quite sure the Supra would fit any chassis.
No, I don't think it would. I think under the current generation rules that they really haven't got anything here that they would want to sell, that they would want to put on the supercars grid. And they've got their motor racing programs. They've got the T86 series, which has just kicked off at Phillip Island on the weekend, and they've got some other bits and pieces they do along the way. So Toyota have made a great success of not being in supercars. So I can't see any reason why they would get in at this stage unless there is a massive shift.
Yeah, and what about the great thing about the 86 series on the weekend? 40 cars.
Yep, huge.
A couple of great talented drivers. There was an up-and-comer.
What's his name?
Gareth Tinder.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah, finished third, I think, on the weekend.
Gareth Grinder. No, Tinder. He did very well. A couple of podiums there. I predict a big future. He might pick up an endurance drive.
Absolutely.
With one of the lesser teams. Not one of the lesser teams.
Righto. And now, what else happened in America on the weekend?
The Masters.
It's on the run sheet. The Masters. Well, of course, the guys in red had to win something.
The run
Tiger at least won.
He did.
And he was wearing red, and it was a big roar.
There was a big roar.
Mightn't have been a lion, but it was a tiger at least.
You're showing your former occupation.
Mate, trust me. I'm balanced.
You are. You've got a chip on each shoulder. But speaking of old guys doing well, Valentino Rossi did very well in Texas. He finished second in MotoGP, but he didn't win. There was a first-time winner in MotoGP, and it was a fantastic effort from Alex Rins. Suzuki's first win in 3 years, and their first win in America for ever. And great to see a first-time winner up there in MotoGP. Australian was third.
Fantastic. I'm just replying to someone online.
See, this is what happens with Facebook. People get distracted when you walk across the road. Don't look at your phone.
No, Robbie, we're just getting a thing saying in Adelaide there's some dropouts. Guys, if you can look at that and just make sure we're going okay. Also in America on the weekend, NHRA, the Mellow Yellow Series visited Houston.
In the NHRA drag racing?
NHRA drag racing, and John Force Racing doubled up in both Top Fuel and Funny Car, with Brittany Force winning Top Fuel.
Now, hang on, there's an Australian link. There's an Australian link with that team.
Like James Small with NASCAR. The Australian link, of course, is David Grubnick. Tuned Brittany Force to the win. It was his first win with the Force team since crossing over from Clay Millican's team. And let's go to the vision and have a look at Brittany Force winning that race.
Technical difficulties. Being told we don't have the videotape.
We do have the videotape.
We're just having a technical problem at the moment playing it. No, it's not happening. Sorry. We're having a few teething problems here. But anyway, it was a great effort from the team.
I got the technical shit happening. No, no.
The cylinder go out, but it is going
you missed it. That's after it.
3.749 seconds at
rewind the videotape.
Seattle last year was the last time a TSR Top Fuel Dragster won an NHRA national event, and both drivers
so the final
lead.
Top Fuel at Houston. And in qualifying, Britain actually reset both ends of the track record. There's the 16-time champ, John Force himself, father of, and very happy indeed. And as it rolls here, we'll see David Grubnick. He has become the big-time tuner over there. He's always, there he is right there, the first Australian to ever win a professional category in the United States. He won at Topeka for driving for Connie Collitter about 12 or 14 years ago, won 4 NHRA national events as a top fuel driver, and it's his and he's been doing a great job tuning the last couple of years. Clay Milliken, Phil, and who challenged for the title but just couldn't break through, and at the end of last year went very quiet, although the rumours were that he was always coming over to John Force Racing, which has been the powerhouse 16 championships. And this year with 2 top fuel dragsters, they've scaled back the funny cars from 3 to 2, and they're running 2 top fuel dragsters instead of 1 because, of course, Courtney Force, who was racing in funny car with the Advanced Auto Parts sponsorship, the wife of Graham Ray Hall, has decided to step out and follow the next phase of her life. We'll probably guess what's going to happen there, so Grubnick's come across Advanced Auto Parts sponsorship, and they're winning.
Where's the next round?
Next round goes back to the 4-wide at Charlotte in North Carolina in 2 weeks' time. JR Todd won in the DHL funny car at Las Vegas just a couple of weeks ago. It's another Bruton Smith track at ZMAX Dragway. It's a brilliant... I had the pleasure of going to the 4-wide 5 years ago at Charlotte, and if you think 2 top fuel dragsters leaving the start line is something special, you have to see 4 to believe it. Kenny Mack from KRE and myself were over there a couple of years ago, and it just blows your mind. From the start line, got to experience it at the start line on the ground level, and also down towards the finish line. When 4 of those things come past at full noise, it's just unbelievable.
Everybody should see top fuel drag racing once in their life, even if they're not a fan. Go and see it. It will reset your agenda. Right. Speaking of agendas, what's
Philip,
next?
Well, 4 rounds into the supercars season. We've got Adelaide out of the way, Melbourne Grand Prix, Tassie, and now Phillip Island.
And it's been so far a bit of a reversal to what we saw last year, and what we've seen so far is the domination of the Ford Mustangs. What we saw last year at this point was domination of the Holden Commodores up to Phillip Island, because Scott McLaughlin's particularly good at Phillip Island. He won the first race on the weekend. Here we see some of the highlights, the Mustangs leading away. The big surprise in qualifying for most people was the form of the Nissans. And look at this, Jamie Whincup was just having a diabolical season. The wheels literally falling off, or one of them did, and McLaughlin took out the Saturday race ahead of his teammate with Andre Heimgartner in third. And we saw another surprise third place man. It was ADP from Erebus Motorsport, and he held on to that position until one of the Shell cars moved him out of the way. That was McLaughlin, but Coulthard took the win. And it's like I said, it's been a complete reversal, because in the races leading up to that point last year, the Commodores were dominating, and so far this year it's been mostly Fords.
Well, after race 10 last year, it was 7-3.
Yeah.
This year it's 9-1, so it's actually gone way over. And is there an issue?
There's already been a parity adjustment.
Well, there hasn't been a parity adjustment. There's been a centre of gravity adjustment.
Well,
now,
it's been done
but here's the deal, Phil.
Okay.
I mean, these cars are the car of the future. We went to a common chassis, right? So when everyone says, we've got a new car, the chassis is the same.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't understand how there was ever a centre of gravity, why someone didn't think of that before anyway. So they've adjusted the centre of gravity, and on the Mustangs by 25 or 6 kilos.
Yeah.
Commodores 5 or 6 to bring it all in line with the Nissan. You go to Tasmania, and out of 12 qualifying efforts, the Mustangs had their seven were worst of the year. Out of the 12 possible qualifying efforts. They they go to Phillip Island, and all of a sudden, centre of gravity is all the same, and the Mustangs were just so superior.
They were. I spent most of the afternoon going through a whole bunch of results and looking at a whole bunch of lap times, and here's what I came up with. If you look in isolation at the individual teams and some of the brands of cars from Phillip Island, the Shell Fords were about a quarter of a second a lap quicker. The Tickfords were almost 0.2 of a second quicker, and the Nissans were 1 and a bit, about 0.12 of a second quicker. The Holdens overall were a little bit slower, about 0.2, but it's the 888 cars that have really dropped the ball so far as the performance is concerned. The 888 cars half a second a lap slower than they were.
Okay, so they're clearly struggling with the twin to single spring deal.
Yeah,
right?
That's been the big change this year, going from double springs to.
But just rule that out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an issue in itself.
Mm-hmm.
So the Falcon to the Mustang, 0.2.
Yep. Well, is that a case of the Ford teams doing a better job with the single spring than the Holden teams? And this is one of the things that, don't forget this.
If the other Holdens are about the same, and you're going to say, well, one's going to be faster and one's going to be slower, and I mean, clearly Red Bull are having major issues.
They are.
But the sample group of the other Holdens, it should be about the same.
So this is something that's going to wash out in future rounds. And don't forget, there's been not just technical changes within the cars, but there's been personnel changes at supercars, and there's now different policemen, if you want to call it that, if you want to put it that way, because Adrian Burgess has become the head of motorsport, and Campbell Little has become the technical manager. Both guys with a great deal of experience. Both guys most recently with Techno, and the guys who know an awful lot about the sport. So they will be the policemen. And they'll be making the decisions and making the recommendations about what sort of parity testing there's going to be.
Well, the interesting part is that there's been talk about, we're going to possibly use wind tunnels in the future, and there was a talk of a test going to happen at Monash. Monash perhaps isn't the right place to do it. There is a full-size wind tunnel there. But in this day and age of motorsport in Australia, with the money that's spent, the personnel, the technology, why haven't we used wind tunnels before? Why hasn't the category taken 3 cars to the United States, to a proper wind tunnel, and done the testing before?
Well, the alternative argument would be that so far supercars has been well served by not doing that, because this is the first time we've had to have a parity discussion in years. And I know the similarities of the Holden Commodore and the Ford Falcon in previous years before the ZB rolled out were such that it was almost a moot point. We never used to ask we always used to ask at press conferences about the parity of the cars, and we didn't do it for 5 or 6 years, and now it's become a question mark because there are such different bodied cars out there.
But here we go, and that's it. It's such different bodied cars.
Yeah.
I mean, here we've gone to a coupe, and people go, but the Commodore's a hatchback, and that's right. When it went to such a dramatic difference, why weren't the cars put on the plane and taken to the United States and wind tunnel tested? For the amount of money that is spent, it's going to be what, 200 grand, maybe?
I don't know. I don't know what it would cost.
For a company that's, turning over 10s, 20s, 50s, hundreds of millions of dollars, and supposed to be a profitable business, why are we only just saying, we'll possibly use it in the future? How the hell, if Paul Morris could do it back in 2008, why can't, and which was the last time a car ended up in a wind tunnel, I think.
Yep.
Why haven't supercars done it?
I don't know. I don't know, and like I said, I'm not sure if that's actually going to be the short-term solution, and there will probably have to be some sort of short-term solution if things keep going the way they are. But also, before we get
I should say, I'm not having to go at the Ford guys because they have done a fantastic job.
Clearly, and they're good teams.
And I think what you're seeing there is the benefit of the Mustang program being full factory program. Now, not taking anything away from 888, their record speaks for themselves, and it's just a brilliant team. But Holden scaled back on the ZB, right? Whereas Ford have come back in, and Holden have never gone out, and we keep, it's great to have Ford back. Well, Jesus, in my career with Holden, I think, which was 17 years, for those that are at home that don't know, I was the Holden PR guy up until the start of last year for 17 years in motorsport. I think we heard of Ford coming back in 4 times in that 17 years. I mean, they're going in and out like a bloody yo-yo going up and down. But they have done, this time coming back in, with Ford Performance in the US, in conjunction with the Penske team, a sensational job with that car. And they've taken advantage of every bit of the rules that they can. And good luck to them.
They have.
But, you know, how have supercars let it... I think probably they've let it get to that. It shouldn't have.
Before we get off Phillip Island, there's a couple of people out there who need a shout-out. Well, one of them is Andre Heimgartner, who did
job.
A fantastic job. And let's say the whole Kelly Racing team, let's say all the guys in the Nissan bunker have done a fantastic job. I went through the test results because we had the pre-season test at Phillip Island. And you've got to go all the way down to 15th to find Heimgartner in the test results at Phillip Island. So to have 15th fastest time out of 24 cars at the test, and then to put the car on the second row of the grid and see off Rick Kelly in the race, and to stay there without killing his tyres, fantastic team from the job from the team, and secondly, brilliant job from Heimgartner. We knew the guy was good, but he really has stood up. And of course, when we get to Sunday, we've got to talk about Anton Di Pasquale, ADP. And we've since learned that there was a bit of controversy within Erebus Motorsport about taking him on at the start of 2018. Betty Clemenco wasn't that wild about the idea, but boy, everybody in that team, from Barry Ryan down, who backed ADP to get in that car and go fast, we saw him go. We started in qualifying at Bathurst last year, and third in that car on that weekend behind those Fords. It was a fantastic effort, by far the best of the Commodores.
David Driscoll's just popped up and said Todd Hazelwood as well.
Oh, brilliant effort from Hazelwood.
Matt Stone Racing.
But for Hazelwood to be qualifying at the same pace as the Red Bull cars in his first year in that car, brilliant. Second year in supercars, and Hazelwood and Matt Stone doing a very good job.
Steve Betts has popped up, who one of the great track managers and motorsport administrators. PWR in Queensland have one of the best wind tunnels in the world. Not quite big enough. You are correct, Betsy. Not quite big enough for a car, though. I don't think. I should know. I do have shares in PWR. I should. And Maddie Coenders just raced supercars on a GT platform. There's an issue that, and I'll tell you, following the Bathurst 12-hour when Techno won the Bathurst 12-hour a couple of years ago
in
with
the McLaren. Yeah.
I actually had the discussion with Steve Hallam, who was running the team at the time, just before he went back to the United States, and I said, Steve, what do you think about the GT3s, and people talk about these becoming our main racing cars? And he said, look, Gerald, these cars are great. Engines last all season, gearboxes last all season. You know, these are customer cars that are made to last. The issue is, once you start racing them like V8 supercars and you've got 24 professional guys running within a second of each other and banging doors and banging wheels and bending, and he pointed to the headlight of the car and he said, well, that's $8,000. The bumper's $20,000.
Carbon fibre bonnet on an M6 BMW is $28,000.
It
gets expensive, and you can't make them back in the workshop. Just before we get off supercars, I'm going to quickly run through the points, because Scott McLaughlin's leading the championship at the moment by 1,058 points.
He's leading by 1,058.
Sorry, he's on 1,058 points. Do you know who was leading at this stage last season? Scott McLaughlin. So what's happened this year is he's taken more wins, but what kept him in the hunt, and which ultimately won him the championship last year, was his consistency. Next round, Perth.
So he's got 7 wins.
Yeah. And he's driving brilliantly, even though he was under the weather in Tasmania. Next round is in Perth, and there's two curveballs in there. One, they're racing under lights at night, and 2, the track's been resurfaced. So let's wait and see what happens in the West.
It should be an interesting event that over there in Perth, and they're putting a huge effort into it. What time of night does it show here on television? And for all those fans out there that don't have Foxtel, I don't want to know about it. I don't have it. I've got KO. It's cheap. It's $25 a month. Get it. You can stream it, and then you can watch us as well.
Don't know what time.
But it should be a great race.
It should be a fantastic race. It's been Triple Eight territory in the past. Let's see what happens this time around.
Let's move on the Motorsport show, and it's great. We're seeing the comments come through. I'm a bit of a gumby here. For some reason, I'm not getting all of the comments live. And Rob, we've got nearly 120 comments going on here, and hopefully we're answering them
they're trying to win the book
reasonably well.
And we're trying to give it away. So we'll keep an eye on that. We're having a few technical problems, but
and David Driscoll's just come in. So when does Scotty Mack go to NASCAR?
If you had the answer to that, let me ask you a question. If he won the championship last year, let's imagine he wins this year.
Scotty, get online and tell us, will you?
Yeah, please. If he wins Bathurst, if Scott McLaughlin wins Bathurst this year, is there any reason for him not to go to NASCAR?
You know, the interesting thing about that, and people talk about how good the drivers are in supercars and how they are in NASCAR, and please don't think I'm having a big dip at Marcus Ambrose here.
No.
But the NASCAR drivers, the vast majority of the races are on ovals, and with all due respect, it's very hard to race on ovals.
It is. He has to learn that.
And you saw when he came back to Australia, he struggled with how far advanced supercars had become, and all of that sort of stuff. And I mean, Scotty, he's got one championship. He needs another 7 to overtake Jamie. Perhaps he could look at that.
In the meantime, a couple of road course ringers. Roger, Tim, are you watching? Put him in a road course.
Right. Agenda number 2, Phil.
Formula 1.
Nihao.
In China, 1,000 races. 1,000. Well, was it really 1,000 races? If you count all those races that were for Formula 2 cars, you got to take 11 of those out, and some of the races that counted in the World Championship with the Indy 500. But it was 1,000 races in China, so let's give everybody the benefit of the doubt. Not really the most riveting motorsport contest. There's the start of the race. Valtteri Bottas on pole, but he didn't take the lead in the first corner. This is one of the most talked about points of the race, when the Ferrari swap position put Max Verstappen in position in the Red Bull to challenge the Ferraris. Vettel was not in a mood to play very nicely. And when this is the highlight of the race, 1 Mercedes-Benz fresh Pirellis, 2 Mercedes-Benz fresh Pirellis, wasn't that awesome? Yes, it was, but it would have been nicer to have seen a great race. The good thing was Dan Ricciardo had a good finish in the Renault, running a one-stop strategy. He was in tyre conservation mood for most of the day, but it gets the Renault on the board, and he was ahead of Nico Hulkenberg when the Hulk went out with some sort of mechanical problem. Not the best race, but 3-1-2s for Mercedes-Benz. They really probably shouldn't be in that position. The record's 4, by the way. The record 4 is 4 consecutive 1-2 finishes for a team, and they're doing a fantastic job. But you've got to wonder what's going to happen. Is there a few cans of worms that have been opened in China by what happened on the track and what didn't happen with the team orders?
Or what they ate.
Or what what they ate. Look, I think Ferrari's got itself in a bit of a pickle here because Charles Leclerc is clearly up to the job of winning races. He should have won in Bahrain. There was only a freakish mechanical problem that put him out of that, and he still finished on the podium, which is a fantastic effort. But Ferrari team orders moving him aside on lap 11, putting Sebastian Vettel in front of him. In a way, all that did was play into Red Bull's hands because Vettel couldn't leave Leclerc behind, which Charles pointed out on the radio. And you've only got to wonder with some of the bigger races coming up a little bit later in the season whether the Ferrari management will get on the radio to say to Leclerc, move over and we'll give Vettel a crack at the leaders. And how long is it before Charles says, no, I'm not going to do that?
We came into this year with a lot of rule changes with wings and aero, bigger rear wing, bigger front wing, less elements, simplified designs. The same bigger opening on the DRS. We were promised better racing, probably mixing it up, more passing.
And it hasn't been like that.
Hasn't it?
No, it really hasn't been like that. I think we will get some better racing. Azerbaijan is next. The motor racing heartland, folks over there in Baku. Right on the edge of Asia.
Especially that passing point around, it's such a wide track, isn't it?
Well, actually, the main straight's pretty wide. It's 1 kilometre long, and there's a 50 km/h right angle bend at the end of it. And as we saw last year, the Red Bulls don't particularly play very well together getting down that part of the racetrack. Bottas has always been fast in Azerbaijan. Hamilton's fast everywhere, and Vettel was on pole there last year. So look, there's plenty to play for. Let's hope that Ferrari can get whatever problems they've had in the most recent race in particular out of the way and really mount a challenge the silver cars, because otherwise we're in for a long year. Ricciardo as well, he's good around there, but he had to take a new MGU-K in his engine, and that's going to cause some sort of penalty later in the season.
What's an MGU-K?
It's part of the energy recovery system, part of the hybrid system that goes on. Don't you read the rule book? Don't you read the FIA rule book?
Where did he finish? He finished in the points, 7th.
Yeah.
He qualified 7th?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So,
but he was ahead of Hulkenberg, and the team's pretty much lined up. And they were,
vast improvement though for the Renault team,
and they're in a rebuilding phase. And Ricciardo knew that when he went there. So look, he'll probably, if he gets 7th at Azerbaijan, he'll be quite happy. But then when he gets to Monaco, I think we might expect to see brand new, fresh engine, no grid penalty, and we might see the best of Ricciardo, and we'll certainly see the best of Leclerc because that's his hometown. Fantastic stuff coming up in Formula One, but at the moment, Mercedes 1-2. Not a great advertisement. Not what we saw in the Netflix documentary, because there was no Ferrari and no Mercedes-Benz in there.
Talk about that. We are talking Formula One.
Yep.
The Netflix documentary, Drive to Survive.
Yep.
I binge watched it the weekend it came out, the long weekend in Victoria, and absolutely brilliant. What a fantastic series. Had to watch it if you don't have Netflix. Just sign up for the $10 for a month and just watch it on a weekend.
Well, don't you get 3 months free?
Oh, I don't. You're the guy that looks at all the deals.
Actually, we'll give you Gerald's login. Yeah. And you can watch it on his account.
It's probably online somewhere.
Listen, the one thing about the documentary though, if you are offended by Austrian swearing, don't watch it, because you might get some, or even Australian swearing, you might get offended, because there is a bit of strong language in there. But boy, the passion of these guys is really fantastic, and some of the rivalries between the drivers further back on the grid.
But how good, because Ferrari and Mercedes elected not to take part in it.
Yep.
Which you think when it starts you'll get to see them later on, and then after 2 or 3 episodes I'm thinking, hang on.
Yeah, where are they?
The PR side of me saying, these blokes aren't in it. I have a suspicion that they've said nick off, and they have. To
protect their IP.
And they have just missed out on a brilliant series, great exposure. I don't watch every F1 race. I try and watch as many as I can, but absolutely drew me in. It was just brilliant series.
There's so many good storylines.
And Gunther Steiner, who runs Haas team, brilliant. And you get to see his reaction to them not doing up the wheel nuts in Melbourne last year, and his call to Gene Haas, the team owner. Unbelievable.
Nothing was off limits. And if MotoGP and supercars in particular are not looking at doing something like that themselves,
well, see,
especially MotoGP.
That's the whole problem. There was a Mickey Mouse series a couple of years ago in supercars, and they had the opportunity. I actually propped this to Holden a number of years ago about in the lead up to Bathurst doing a whole thing, and they knocked it back. But there was a supercars one, and all they did was Mickey Mouse stunts, and it missed it.
There is a great opportunity there to do something proper. But Formula One, the next race, as I said, is Azerbaijan. Before we get away from China, one more thing: Alexander Albon. Races for Thailand. Born in Britain. Yeah, he's old man racing the British Touring Car Championship. Absolutely fenced the car all by himself in qualifying and in practice, and didn't even make it to qualifying. And
did they have to put a new tub in the car?
I don't know whether they did or not, but they pulled an all-nighter. He started right at the back of the grid, and he got up to 10th, and an absolutely brilliant drive. And there's a lot of good drivers, first-year drivers in Formula One this year. Albon looks like he might be the pick of them so far.
Yeah, well done, and drive of the weekend, according to most people.
Absolutely.
So, got in the points.
No arguments here.
Okay, now, agenda number 4. Now, a subject close to my heart because
drag racing.
It is drag racing. It's the sport which I got my start in Motorsport.
Yep.
When I received a phone call from a guy called Steve Betts, who typed in before on the 23rd of February 1990.
Let me play the dummy here, Gerald. I've seen drag racing, but I don't claim to be an expert on it by any stretch of the imagination, and you know that. I know the top fuel cars are not going to go to Willowbank. Explain the thinking behind that.
So the Top Fuel teams have withdrawn from the next round of the 400 Thunder Series on Friday or Saturday? Saturday at Willowbank Raceway on the grounds of safety, because there's no safety net has been installed at the bottom end of Willowbank Raceway. Now, Willowbank is operated because it has a very long runoff. It hasn't had a safety net before, but the teams were promised a safety net in upgrades. And apparently they were told it was the first of the 2 nets that they are installing, which, take the energy of the cars to slow them down if they run off the end of the racetrack. They were told that the first safety net was going to be installed before Easter. It wasn't installed, so they have now all withdrawn. And this is Australian drag racing's in trouble, Phil. This is the 3rd event in a row where the first event of the year at Willowbank Raceway finished at 1 o'clock in the morning. I haven't been to a drag race that finished at 1 o'clock in the morning since 1989. That's a disgrace for an Australian Championship event that was supposed to finish at 10 o'clock, finish at 1 o'clock in the morning. The second one didn't get to finish because one of the door slammers had a crash at Sydney and went through the safety net. And unfortunately, the Top Fuel final didn't get run. Now this round, that's 3 events in a row of an Australian Championship that's either not happened or had major dramas with it. It's not good enough for an Australian Championship. You've got 2 sanctioning bodies in Australia. That needs to be sorted out somehow. You've got the pros, the racers are actually representing themselves on a commission. They're doing a great job. But the sport is not gelling, and it's a fantastic sport. We've got world-class races. Rapisada racing 3 cars. They run in the 3.7 and 3.8 second range at 320 mile an hour. The Lamartina family field 2 Top Fuel dragsters. Kelly Betts is the reigning champion, who's come up from junior dragsters. She won the Top Fuel title in her rookie year. And you also have Peter Ziberis from Sydney, from Premier Hire, that he runs a world-class outfit. And these guys have actually pulled out of that event. Can you imagine supercars going,
no,
hang on, we're not racing this week?
No. And look, I know there's different levels and there's different brackets and there's pro categories and so on in drag racing, but these are the headliners. These are the star acts. And Top Fuel drag racing, as you say, in Australia, it's comparable with, take the NHRA out of it, take the American series out of it, it's comparable with the quality of Top Fuel racing anywhere in the world. So this is what
it's the best. Other than the US,
okay.
It's better than Europe.
Okay. So this is what people will pay their money at the gates to see,
Absolutely.
and they're not going to get to see it. And it's a great opportunity missed. And let's hope, as you say, let's hope the people involved, and there's been a split in drag racing for a while now. Let's hope the people involved can put their heads together and A, try and heal that split, and B, put in place all the things that professional drag racers expect when they go to a place like Wollongong.
Well, you were one of the
leading commentators
of the Australian Nationals many years ago.
If anyone's got that videotape, please burn it right now.
We've got a comment from Dave Stillwell, further from the famous Stillwell family. Friday the Drags from Nino Cavallo, former Pro Stock champion, and coming back to be another championship. It was a great meeting behind the scenes. Characters of F1, Dave Stillwell says, are showing that even the Germans have a sense of humour.
They do. Of course they do. They make nice food too, and beer.
Kingsley Edgar, just come back from India and wherever else he's been, Colombo, maybe a federal election promise for better motorsport venues. Well, I'll tell you about that one. I got a $40 million. Me and another guy, a couple of other guys, Lachlan Craven and Morris Allen, got a $40 million commitment to build a world-class drag strip here in Melbourne from Matthew Guy, who was trying to become the next Premier of Victoria,
and almost made it. Apart from about 30 seats.
A genuine $40 million commitment. The abuse we copped online, just because we asked people to consider looking at it and maybe supporting them if you like drag racing, give it a go.
Yeah.
The use we got online.
It would be nice to see.
I don't think anyone's ever going to ask anyone for a drag strip ever again.
No. Who else is out there on Facebook land? By the way, but before we got there is something else we haven't quite mentioned, and there's going to be a.
Hang on. Oh, here's one on. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, go on.
Nick over in Perth. Hi, Gerald. The grand final, the Andrew Grand Finals in Perth on recently or last weekend was a great event. But I understand your point, Nick. Drag racing is split. Yes, the Perth event might have been okay, but no big pro show. The pros aren't going over there because the management don't want to deal with 400 Thunder. That's ridiculous. There's still this split of people trying to undermine stuff. They need to get the sportsmen together. There's a way which they can operate with ANDRA and the IHRA. They need to get that solved, and the pros can go around. People just need to start talking rather than keeping their heads up their asses on this. And I'm angry on that, but that's they're robbing drag racing fans of seeing the good stuff.
Good to get those. Good to get the feedback. Good to get those questions from the fans out there. Have we got any questions about any other categories?
Of which someone's going to cop a book.
Someone is going to cop a book. And there's more news from around the motor racing universe. Of course, show us the book. Before we do that, we'll show us the book. There we go. We'll plug the book again.
Yeah, plug the book.
Please send in your questions, and you might get that very nice book.
And $75. It's 288 pages, and it's all about Larry Ormsby's 3 GT and GT HO Falcons, the second of which was a Stillwell-backed car, funnily enough, with Dave Stillwell, with Ford support from Big Al Turner, the legendary Big Al Turner, and the third Falcon he had was full factory GT HO Falcon.
That's good. There's been news from other categories around the Australian motor racing universe so far this week, and one of the categories that is starting to sign drivers is TCR. And there's been
big news.
There has been. So when we were doing a run through on the show last week, that didn't go to where we had 2 drivers and then 3 drivers, and there were 4 drivers. And I've actually produced this. I bought this at Officeworks today. I'll just show that to the fans. Can we just pan down there, take a 2-shot, boys?
Go 2-shot, boys. There we go.
There we go. We were at 4 drivers, and now I'm very happy to say that we're at 5. 5 drivers for TCR because Nathan Morecambe has been announced as one of the drivers of one of the 2 Hyundais that'll be in the series this year. But
more importantly, who announced a 2-car team on the weekend?
Not me. That was Jason Bright.
Jason Bright, Bathurst winner, IndyCar driver. Fantastic.
So we'll keep this up to date. Our TCR.
Are you getting paid off them? Why do you keep mentioning TCR?
Because
is that a cash register?
No, it's good. It's Gerald. It's a gag.
Yes, okay.
We've turned it over to 05. Next week it'll be hopefully 06.
Adam Hughes says TCR is the future
of TCR.
Of TCR, correct. Enjoying the show, says Mark Allen. Keep it up, guys. Hopefully next time the production guys will have their shit together and we'll be better. So, Rob and Danny boy,
we're about to get thrown off the air unexpectedly. We can't say that.
It's the budget. The budget. It's my God, have I spent some money this week? Matty Forbes, multi-champion. How good is Richie Crampton going? Good morning, Richard. I hope you're up already and watching in Brownsburg, Indiana. He is currently 9th in points, Matt, and won the Gator Nationals back-to-back. Won the 50th anniversary Gator Nationals just a few weeks ago, driving for Connie Coletta, doing a fantastic job. Tony Heasley says, great idea, Adam Hughes. What was Adam Hughes' idea? We missed that one.
Adam, let us know what your idea.
Benny Grimshaw says, good job. Thanks, Benny. David Driscoll, more sponsors. Never heard that before in motorsports. What, we need more sponsors?
We need more sponsors. Who is that? Benny Driscoll?
Yeah, especially a beer sponsor.
Brought to you by Benny Driscoll.
And we need a party. Phil?
Yes.
Quite amazingly, are you archiving our shows, Matt? The great thing about Facebook Live is that it archives straight away onto Facebook. So it's a great reference for any lawyers that might come out and have to watch what I say again. But I am getting insurance, so we'll be right.
Well, I don't think I've upset anybody tonight, Gerald.
To pay more sponsors for extra bandwidth. We've got plenty here, like the joint's trucking. So I don't know. if the leopards and the elephants and all that with that telephone company stop running around outside, they might actually get through. Should bring in special experienced guests, says Ben Grimshaw. Thanks, Benny.
More presenters.
More presenters. We'll try that for next time. Amazingly, it's 9:29.
We've gone an hour. The first show is just about done. It's just about in the can, as the professionals say. Is that what the professionals say?
Yeah, they do, actually. Love your show. Thanks very much, Matt. You're greasing us up pretty good. Good to see you guys having Carlton draft. No, it's beer. Russell Ingle is looking for a gig. He's always looking for a gig, and more importantly, he's always looking for a buck. Hey, Rusty, good. I hope you're watching online. One of the good guys of Motorsport.
Oh, well, actually, before we get off the subject of Russell Ingle, it's easy to criticise the guy, but like there were changes at Fox Sports in the coverage of supercars, but Russell has been absolutely straight down he's been gun barrel straight about the whole thing that happened. No whining, no grizzling. He just gets on with it. So
and I think the reaction,
you're going to love him or hate him, but
I had
he's done a good job.
Russell rang me. We had a chat about it. He was a bit surprised by it all, but was very quiet and was thrilled with the support from the general public out there.
Good.
So, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And Craig's doing a great job, but I thought Russell should have been on there as well. Anyway, Rob seems to be able to wind us up pretty good. Couldn't push the button on a couple of videos earlier, but anyway,
he can cut us off the air now. Just wind it up and say good night and thank everybody and tell them who won the book.
So. Well, I'm going to have. I've missed all of the comments.
Okay, we'll go through the comments.
And we will post who wins the book.
And we'll mention it next time.
No, and we'll post it online tomorrow.
Oh, will we? Okay, yep. We'll do that.
Definitely online tomorrow. Starting to get the flow going. Well done, guys. Onwards and upwards. Thank you, Lachlan Craven and Driscoll. Now, our next show. So this will be archived. We'll cut.
Hang on a second. Are we doing another one? How many are we doing?
It depends if we're allowed back here. Our next show will be on the 1st of May. We're into the month of May.
Yep.
Indy 500.
My favourite time of year.
Monaco Grand Prix.
Yep.
What's the other one? There's something else on.
Supercars. Winton? Winton is coming. Where else would you rather go? Oh, yeah. Well, Indianapolis. Oh, Monaco. No, Winton's
Need
good.
different opinions in commentary on supercars. David Driscoll says, is that our opinions, or are you guys annoyed that now you get the TV commentary when you're at the track? That's perhaps what we'll talk about next time as well.
Not a big fan of that.
No, it's ridiculous. And what, you're going to tell everyone at home to go and get yourself a hot dog and a T-shirt and stuff like all track commentators should be doing, right?
Many moons ago, you and me doing track commentary.
Yeah. Next show, Wednesday, 1st of May, 8:30 p.m. right here on Facebook Live. A couple of things I want to say because I come up with the brainwave. Phil just turned up.
I was just driving past.
It came up with it was a simple idea. Perhaps we go to a tee shot. It was a simple idea to start with, and I rang Phil and I said, "Shit, I got this bloody idea. Why don't we do this?" He said, "Oh yeah, that's good." And I've seen a couple of guys in the States do something similar, but we could do it with a couple of cameras. Anyway, it got out of control. And we got lights and shit everywhere, and it's a bit over the top. It's been very stressful, but we couldn't have done it, Philip, without the help of Robbie from Fuzzy Media and also Danny Boy over here. Thanks, guys. Thumbs up. Also, a heartfelt thanks to Murray Anderson, world famous chassis builder from drag racing, who's hanging outside because this is where we got our studios, and also Tony DeFelice, GT driver and also door slammer driver, who's helped us out with the space to set up our cameras and do everything. So heartfelt thanks to those guys. I really appreciate it. We're hoping this venture's going to take off. We want to actually maybe even go to Bathurst and do a couple of shows up there, possibly if we get some sponsors and stuff in the lead up to the race.
We can do that? We can go portable?
We can travel as well.
In colour?
Yep. In 24-bit colour.
Wow.
But those guys, thank you very much. And in closing, I should say to Dave Lovell, sincerest condolences, Dave, on the passing of your father.
Yeah, one of the great sports. He's been Gerald McDornan.
And it's not Waldorf and Statler from the Muppet Show. Phil Brannigan and Gerald McDornan saying thank you very much for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we look forward to talking to you in 2 weeks' time.